Cinderfall is one of the main villains of Ruby and might be one of the greatest anime villains of all time. I'm going to be honest with you guys, she's nothing but one big disappointment. After watching the chapter that finally gave us the backstory of one of the main villains of this freaking show, it of course ends up as a disappointment. It was so disappointing and generic it motivated me to make my first YouTube video to share my thoughts on this to the internet. We start off with Cinder in a farm, being miserable doing chores and getting bullied by a generic farmer named unnamed boy. Cinder decided she had enough and fought back, and after that I guess her family is tired of her shit and decides to sell her to an evil stepmom. That is it, that's all we get to see of her family or supposed family. I guess the writers believed that Cinder's birth parents weren't important enough to the story. After Cinder gets sold to the evil stepmom to work in her hotel, she suffers a fate even worse than she did at the farm. Oops, wait, I was wrong, she literally goes through the same shit she went through at the farm. She gets bullied by her siblings and forced to work while starving. I mean, really, what was the point of putting Cinder in two different settings where literally nothing changes? Was the reason for this to make us feel worse for Cinder? All I can say is this. I know some of you might be thinking that she is suffering a lot more at the hotel than at the farm by the fact she is literally getting electrocuted with a shock collar every time she does something wrong. I can agree with that, but her backstory really would not have changed if all the farm scenes were removed. I mean, if they are really trying to make us feel bad for Cinder, at least try to make her a likable character in the beginning of her backstory and show more on how she acted on the farm. Did she act like a very rude child on the farm, or was she a kind girl before suffering from all the bullying she receives? All we got from Cinder in this backstory is that she has a short temper and reacts quickly with violence. Overall, what I'm saying is there needed to be a driving point to want the viewer to be more invested in the character, and the farm scene did none of that. I mean, they literally copy and pasted Nora's backstory and added a mix of the original Cinderella's story to Cinder and called it a day. Here is an idea that would do the scenes better in my opinion. I think it would have been better to just have Cinder be born in the cruel hotel-owning family and focus on Cinder and her relationship with the sisters and mother. They need to tell us why the sisters enjoy picking on Cinder and why the mother needed to put a shock collar on Cinder. Maybe the mother did it as a disciplining method to teach Cinder proper manners. This might seem cruel, but the stepmother would explain that she does this with all her children in order for them to fit in society. This way the mother and sister can be actual characters instead of a plot device on why Cinder becomes a psychopath. If I were to redo the farm scene to include it in is to have where they delve into Cinder's life. By how she behaves in the farm setting, such as Cinder having a more country personality with a lack of knowledge with manners. Also, I would get rid of the scenes that she getting treated cruelly by her family but instead wants to help her family through the tough times. This with her combined upbeat personality would show off more of her personality as a character and make her more likable. The reason she gets sold is her current family is suffering from financial problems and decided to sell Cinder in order to have enough money to feed the rest of the family. Cinder, upon realizing that she is being sold, she will think it would be for the best because she would believe if she works at a high-class hotel she would get fed properly and her family would not have to starve, making her very noble. This would also explain why Volume 1 to 3 Cinder acts very high-class and elegant and also cruel because of what her evil stepmom did. Now that I got that off my chest, let us dive to the remainder of the backstory. Throughout the montage they show Cinder getting constantly picked on and electrocuted. After tripping and falling she was noticed by a pro huntsman that felt bad for her, I guess. This is also the same huntsman that she stole a sword from somehow. He catches Cinder in the act of planning to do something with the sword, probably planning to murder the evil stepmom and sisters, to be honest. Without hesitation she tries to attack the huntsman, truly showing how bloodthirsty and crazy Cinder is. Yeah, way to go, trying to make us feel sorry for her. Then for some reason the huntsman wanted to train Cinder for the huntsman exam so would no longer run away from her problems. He does this for her because I guess he just felt it bad for her. This scene dumbfounded me in many ways. Like, why did this dude not report to the police that Cinder, a 10-year-old, is getting physically abused by literally being electrocuted? And why didn't he just snook Cinder out to go with him to train away from her not so good family so she won't get driven to murder them? I guess trying to take Cinder away would be against the law and be considered child abduction. But bitch, there is literal evidence of child abuse and torture around this waste of space snack. Instead, this huntsman's best idea is sneak in the hotel at night, which is breaking another law. In order for Cinder to be good enough to take the huntsman exam. After a couple of years of training, the huntsman decide to reward Cinder with the sword she stole. But unfortunately, one day when the huntsman returned to the hotel, he noticed how it's conveniently empty and quiet even though it's a bloody hotel. He soon discovers Cinder murdering the evil stepmom and sisters. Even after being electrocuted multiple times, she was able to end the evil stepmother's life with her bare hands, even though she could have just stabbed her with the sword she had. Realizing his poor decision-making, he decided to put Cinder down like Old Yeller, instead of trying to calm her down or try to reason with her. Like, damn, did all those bare-bone montages of you two together mean nothing? Refusing to go down, Cinder decides to kill the huntsman without a moment's hesitation, really showing how irredeemable Cinder truly is. For some reason, the fight is pretty even despite the fact that the huntsman should be higher in skill and experience. I guess like the Aesops, he was just holding back, which in result got his aura broken to be killed by Cinder. The huntsman pats Cinder on the head, even though she straight up killed him in cold blood for trying to stop her so she wouldn't hurt anyone else. After that, she takes off her collar and cries into the night. That's it, that's Cinder's backstory. And this was basically me after watching this chapter on my iPad. So yeah, as you can see, not only was this backstory generic, it was completely underwhelming, and this backstory failed to explain the majority of why Cinder acts like a power-hungering edgy bitch that instead of obeying her human evil stepmom and now obeys someone basically the same but immortal and with husband problems. Which this backstory also failed explaining how in the hell Cinder met Salem in the first place and why she wanted to become a Walmart discount Virgil. Even though we finally got a Cinder backstory, and even if it turns out good, I still believe it was way too late. It has been 8 volumes of this series, and shoving a backstory now for Cinder doesn't do anything for me. I really don't care if they plan to add more backstory for Cinder, because I am tired of this show constantly disappointing me. The only thing I can hope for Cinder is her death and be done with, like what they did with Adam. Before we end this rant, did you notice throughout the entire video that the only name I mentioned was Cinder? And no, I didn't name the other characters because they were so forgettable. I didn't mention them because their names were never said in the actual episode. You had to go into the freaking credits to find out what their names were. This really shows the minimum effort in the backstory and the whole show in its entirety. I really didn't want to make my first video so negative, but Ruby had a special place in my heart during my high school days. Even though when I started watching Ruby, I thought the story was pretty generic, but the fight scene stole my heart and made me fall in love with the show. Ruby was known to be a passion project that really shined with its strengths to get through its weakness. But after Monty's death, the way they took the show was a failure by trying to make a serious story out of Ruby. The writers of the show throughout the years proves how incapable they are in writing a compelling story and just rip elements from other good shows like The Last Avatar. I wanted to keep defended Ruby and hated it when people kept getting so critical with every aspect of the show, and I just want those reviewers to chill and try not to take it so seriously, but I can't say that because they try to make the story into a serious one. Well, that was my first video, and I hope you all enjoyed. The reason why I wanted to make a video is to see how well I do in making an analytical anime video, since I enjoy watching videos like these. I wanted to make a more positive video of an anime I'd enjoyed, but after watching the sad excuse of a backstory, I had to share my thoughts of it on the internet. I enjoy anime a lot and really wanted to share a balance of positive and negative videos of shows I have watched. Also, the reason I decided to use a text-to-speech bot was because I didn't want to make the people watching to suffer ear damage with my insufferable voice. Also, the fact this was inspired by Sonic How XD Mortal Kombat Sucks series, so a big shout out to him. If you have the time, I would love to see your thoughts on the video, and if you would like to see more videos like these, or even what should I improve with them, since I am planning to make more videos like these in the future. Since you know I'm still stuck at home. Thank you for watching and hoping for the best for 2021.